Hello everybody, this is Otto with Junk Bucket Garage, and today we're going to work on this piece of crap. First thing we're going to do is get into these back brakes, because Ford made the same truck the same year with the same options with different brakes. So we got to take them apart, check the width of the brake pads before we can order parts. So the first thing you got to do is get those tires up off of the ground. And I've learned from experience, never trust a jack, always use jack stands. And if you want to spice up life, use Harbor Freight jack stands, because sometimes they break. Makes it more interesting. Ha! And I always just leave the jack, give it a little hit, that feels right. And just leave it there. All right, I'm gonna get some tools together and then we'll take that first tire off. All right, we're getting ready to get started. We're gonna take the tire off, check these brakes, give them a good see-through, hook our eyes on them. These are the tools you're gonna need for working on these old cars. Those insect foggers are a must. Sometimes you just gotta put them under the truck and kill everything that's living in it, because you're not the only one that's going to be in there if you don't. All right. Here's a pro tip. If you got a hubcap like this and it's already scratched up, flip that over, throw all your small parts in that. It's like this old Ford trucks come with their own parts holders. We're going to spray a little bit of helper offer on there. If you're smart, you do this the day beforehand and let that soak in. We'll pretend like we did that. Alright, which one are you? Nope. Oh, yep, that one sounded right. Lift with your back in a twisting, jerking motion. Oh yeah. Yeah, there's stuff living in there. Look at that. Oh, there's a big old black widow right there. Zoom in on that bad boy. We're gonna just pet him. Hi, how are you, Mr. Black Widow guy? Oh, those are girls, huh? Oh, yeah. So here's a little known fact. Black widows love the non-chlorinated flammable brake clean. It's their favorite. Yeah, just get a little bit of that. All right, look at that, pepped him right up. And then if you just massage them with this bar right here, a little bit. Oh yeah, they love that. All right. Oh, there was another one. Oh. Nope, that was the only one. What's up? Ah. Die, spider. So what just happened there is what we call a miracle. So I don't know if you saw that when we had the tools out, but I had this guy, had this little girl right here. I had this one, and I already wrote in my journal this morning that I was going to be angry because these usually don't come off. And that one, man, she just slid right off. Look at that. All right, if I can figure out how this can trap. Look at this. Look what my wife got me for filming. Look at that. I can go that way. I can go that way. It's called a gimbal, and it works pretty good. All right. So this is what we're going to look for. First of all, here's your wheel cylinder. This doodad. That's what pushes those brakes apart when you. Oh man, I got my finger dirty. When you push on your brake pedal, it pushes hydraulic fluid into there, spreads those apart, and applies these brake shoes. Remember, on a drum brake, they're called shoes. On disc brakes, they're called pads. Or is that backwards? I don't know. You tell me. So what you're going to look for is any kind of leak behind this rubber right here. And I mean, these are really dry. They look good. I mean, there's a little rust there even. That means they're really dry. That's perfect. I should start by saying that we already know these brakes work. That's some stuff I sprayed on there earlier. But look at those, look at those pads. See, these are shoes, not pads. What am I doing? Cut, edit that out. All right, I mean, those look really good. They look really good. They were a little out of adjustment, but all the springs look good. Look at that. I'm happy with that. But here's something we need to look at for sure. We need to go back in here, and here's this thing here. That's the brake hose. And, you know, that's still pliable. You want to check and make sure they're not hard. On these old cars that have sat and they haven't been being used, make sure there's no bubbles sticking out of them or cracks in the rubber. And, man, that looks like we could keep using that. It looks really good. So on the rear brakes, on a straight axle like this, there's only going to be one hose, and it's going to be up on the rear end somewhere. Everything else will be hard lines. On the front, there's going to be one on each side. We'll have to check both of those when we get up there. I'm going to clean these off. You want to check this adjuster right here and make sure that's spinning free, because that's what keeps your brake shoes pressed up against the drum. It'll adjust out when you apply the brakes, and keeps your brakes adjusted so that your foot pedal always feels solid. You don't have a bunch of sponginess and lazy brakes. So you always want to make sure that that's spinning free both directions. And everything on here looks like, I don't see any grooves. No grooves in the drum. It doesn't look like it's been turned down either. So this side looks good. I'm surprised. So here's what we were talking about just a minute ago, this brake adjuster. And one of the things that you got to check, and if you look, I'm gonna pull that back. I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna try to turn that. And man, that is just, I put 2 hippopotamuses on that, and I could barely turn it. So that's got to come off. That's got to be cleaned up in order for these to work correctly. We're going to try to take that off without disassembling the whole brake assembly, but I don't think that's going to happen, because that's not how things work. Ha! You just want to spray the brake clean until all the stress is gone out of your life. Then that's when you know you're good. Oh yeah. Oh, look at that. Look at that. Oh, can you believe it? What you got to do is use all your muscles. And do the wrong thing and not take nothing apart. See, that's turning pretty free. It looks like they had some no stick in there at some point, but down here in the bottom that was getting a little rough. So we're going to take the wire wheel and liberal amounts of brake clean. We're going to clean that up. We're going to lube it real good with some Antiseize. See, somebody already done it. Somebody did one. I think I worked on this before. That must have been when I was 10. And we're going to get that back in there where it's working really good, free. And I'll show you how to adjust these brakes where you don't have to sit under them for an hour and use a screwdriver on this little wheel.
Yeah.
So we clean this up as much as I'm going to. It was already really clean. It wasn't too bad. And now what we're gonna do is we're gonna make sure this thing works real good, and we're gonna use this jar, if you can barely read it anymore, Antiseize. And you got to remember when you're using Antiseize that you got to throw your clothes away when you're done, because this stuff will get on everything. We're just gonna take that, just go like that until you remember to call your mom on her birthday. When's my mom's birthday?
November 1st.
See, I haven't missed it yet, guys.
It's December.
That means I missed that one. No, I'm waiting for the next one. So, there you go. Yeah, just a little bit. You just want a little bit of that. And then I always run it all the way down.
That's what she said.
Until I feel better about my life. And just make sure that that's 100% free, working smooth. Because if everything else looks good on your old drum brakes and everything's working clean and your shoes are good, and this is going to be the part that's going to bite you down the road. If you don't put Antiseize on that or some grease, sometimes you can use brake grease. I've got some of that. I like Antiseize because it's designed to work on these threads, and it just seems to last a little longer. This part working good and free is going to just keep your brakes feeling just like they'll stop your vehicle when you put your foot on them. What did I have for breakfast? Or what I had for breakfast. When's my mom's birthday?
November 1st.
Okay, I'm happy with that. I'm gonna leave that collapsed so it's easier to get in there. Now, there's a part that some people might mistake it and not lube, is this end cap here. Some of them will have this little washer, some of them won't. It goes right there. But when you're adjusting this, this has to turn free. And I've often seen these on these older vehicles, especially the old muscle cars. They'll be rusted right on there, so you want to get some lubrication in there. Now, whoever did this before me, they put Antiseize on both ends. I like to use brake caliper grease or brake grease on these ends that aren't threaded, or any part that isn't threaded. They're just designed for working on your brakes, and I figure somebody else did the math, so they probably know better than me. You got to make sure your bottles are nice and clean and the labels are legible, so you're not using the wrong stuff. You know, don't be scared. That's my advice for today. Just don't be scared. And we're gonna go ahead and just be nice. Just be in a giving mood when you do this. You know? Have the Christmas spirit a little bit. Really put that stuff on there. And just don't be scared to get your fingers in there. It's good for them. Oh yeah. Can you smell that? That's way better. All right. So one piece of advice I'll give you that's actually important, that'll actually help you, unlike anything else I'm telling you. If you've never done a set of drum brakes like these before, don't be scared of them. They're not that difficult. I'll show you how to adjust them here in a minute. And once they're adjusted, it makes bleeding them easy. They look really complicated, but you can do them with hand tools, just a pair of pliers and a screwdriver and a little bit of that, and you get them done. Here's the thing you got to remember. There's a lot of little parts, and you've got a mirror image on the other side. So only take one side apart at a time. Have that other side ready where you can look at it when you're putting this back together. Just walk over to the other side, take a picture of it even, say, oh, that's where that spring goes, and then come over here and put it on this side. It makes it super simple. You can't make a mistake. If you've ever copied somebody else's homework, you know what I'm talking about. I think we can do this. Watch it. Ha! Look at that. Oh my Lord. Didn't even have to take the brakes apart. Nothing. And I can tell you from experience that this is going to have to be adjusted way out. So I'm going to give it, I don't know. Let's see here. Yeah. Oh boy. That many to start. And what we're looking for, oh, there's Mr. Black Widow. There you go. Is when you slide this drum on, you want a little bit of friction against these shoes. You don't want that to just be out in the middle of nowhere, because what'll happen is when you're trying to bleed your brakes, this slave cylinder is going to have to push a bunch of fluid in order to get these to contact the drum, and you're just going to have a spongy pedal, and you're never going to get rid of that. So these shoes got to be up against this drum. And that is just, nope. So let's go another, I'm just turning that down. Hear that click? That's how you know it's working. And I'm going to go about, yeah. I got a calibrated eye. We'll go that many. That's a big negative. Let's do some more, huh? If you've got big old ham hands like me, it makes it a little harder. Let's go that many. Uh-oh. Oh, we're onto something now. I can feel a little bit of drag. And now once the tire's on, there's still going to be a little bit of adjustment we're going to do. But now I don't have to be under there for 20 minutes clicking away on that thing with the screwdriver. They're already pretty close. This truck, man, she's a gem. $200 and still got good brakes. What did I do right? I should also put on there that it cost us $900 to do the paperwork. So I guess it's not a $200 truck anymore, is it?
Nope.
Remember to always tighten these cross pattern. On a 5 lug, you just go straight across 2 nuts, then straight across 2 nuts, and then you catch that little straggler when you're done. That way you don't anger the tire gods. What's for dinner?
It is 8:30 in the morning.
It's never too early to be thinking about dinner. You want to torque these down to that about right then. Yep. So we were talking about all the little pieces that go on here, and I was saying sometimes they have that little washer and sometimes they don't have that little washer. Well, here's the same truck on the other side, no washer. You just want to make sure that spins free, and as long as that's spinning free, you're going to be okay. There's probably a good chance that somebody worked on these brakes before and lost that little washer, but it's fine. Run it without it. It'll be okay. If you ever get your parts mixed up when you're lubricating and fixing these adjusters, one of them spins right, one of them spins left. So righty-tighty, right? Well, these are righty-loosey. That's going to be for the right side of the vehicle. They're left-hand threads. And if you forget, you take this little cap off the end, and there'll be an R right there, or an L, right or left. That way you can't get them wrong. If you ever come down on the brakes on one of these cars and one of your brakes locks up as soon as you touch that pedal and it's grabbing really bad, that usually means you got an axle seal or a wheel seal leaking. And what you look for is right up in here. You'll see a bunch of oily grease coming down out of the lower bottom of where your axle bolts into your rear end housing. And then that grease or 90 weight gear oil will get on your pads. And then as soon as you hit your brakes, that thing will grab up real hard and you'll have one tire skidding behind you or it'll jerk you forward. And you just want to look for anything leaking out of this axle seal in here, which is behind this plate on a Ford 9-inch. Some other Fords and Chevys and Mopars, they don't have a plate here. Those are called C-clip axles, but they still have a seal up here that will leak. It just makes them a little bit more difficult to pull that axle out because you got to go in and take the rear end cover off, drain the oil out, pull the C-clips out of the axles, then slide the axle out. So that's also a good way to know you don't have a C-clip axle, is if this flange is bolting on right here and holding the axle itself into the rear end. Final brake adjustments, you're going to need one of these fancy tools. It's called a brake spoon, or one of these fancy tools. That's called a brake flathead screwdriver. You're going to have to get under here with the truck in neutral, make sure the e-brake's off, so that you can spin these tires and listen. And you're going to just reach into the back. There's a hole in the back of that brake drum. Usually got a rubber plug in it. Pull that plug out, and you're going to reach in with the spoon or a screwdriver and just turn that wheel on those adjusters that we just lubricated, and you'll hear it going click, 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 click when you're spinning it the correct way. You can spin them backwards. It takes a lot of force to do it because it's got a little arm that's trying to hold that from spinning the wrong way. But when you're spinning them the correct way, you'll hear that clicking, and what you want to do is spin that until when you're rolling this tire, you can hear that brake pad shoe drag just a little, and then you're good. Okay, so we're under the truck, and you can see right here, this is that rubber plug I was telling you about. So you got to get that off of there, and you can usually do that with your sandwich clamps, like that. Now there's a little hole, a flat hole right there. You can use your screwdriver or your brake spoon if your jack stand's not in the way, and you can just reach in there and you'll grab that wheel, and you hear that click. That's that anti-back off plate thing, and you're going to turn that, and you're going to turn this wheel back and forth like that, and just tighten that up. And right, and right there I got some friction. Those pads are just touching. And that's it. That's the adjustment done. And now this is adjusted. We're ready. If we need to, we can bleed the brakes. That'll make bleeding the brakes a lot easier, a lot faster. Your brake pedal will feel better. A lot of times on these old cars that have drum brakes and your brake pedal feels spongy and you can't bleed that out of them, it's because those adjusters are frozen and the brake shoes aren't up against the drum. So every time you push down on that brake pedal, The hydraulic fluid is pushing those two pistons apart in the wheel cylinder, but it's not stopping because those shoes are too close away from, or too far away from the drum. And no matter what you do, you're gonna have a spongy pedal. Once that adjustment's done, it'll usually come right out of it. You'll have a good solid brake feel. And you could see why that stupid little trick of spinning that adjuster, sliding the drum on, sliding it off, tightening it up some more, then sliding the drum on until you feel a little friction helps a lot. Because if not, you're under there for 10 minutes with your spoon or your screwdriver, rolling that wheel 1 or 2 clickety clicks at a time until those things touch. Ask me how I know. All right, fellas. I'm gonna do a new segment in my show. I'm gonna call it husband tips. Just things that I've learned in my life that I'd like to pass on to everybody. Things like, if you get in an argument with your wife, you just say, you know, honey, whatever I did, I'm sorry. So here's my first husband tip, something that I learned. If you're gonna do a YouTube channel and you're gonna shoot your own video and then expect your wife to edit it for you, you don't leave the camera rolling for 8 hours and just do stuff, because she's gonna have to watch that 4 or 5 times, and that's 8 hours of video that I learned is very annoying and upsets people. So there's your husband tip of the day. So that's going through the rear brakes. There's a lot more repairs coming on this truck. It's been sitting for about 20 years, so we're gonna go through the front brakes. We're gonna do the bearings. I think all the window felts and seals and door seals are all completely shot. So we'll get some videos posted up of that. I hope you enjoyed this video. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe, and we'll see you guys next time.